Thank you so much for coming. I'm Tommaso Mancini. I am from the Monetary and Capital Markets Department here at the IMF. And I don't know about you, but I've always been dreaming of doing this. Not necessarily of being a moderator, but having the opportunity to ask any question that comes to my mind to the absolute experts in the world on the topic. And it's my pleasure today to introduce these two experts here with us. The Bank of Canada and the Riksbank in Sweden are at the forefront of the discussions and the thinking about central bank digital currencies. These activities are headed by two people in these banks, and here they are, Deputy Governor Cecilia Skingsley from the Riksbank and Deputy Governor Tim Lane from the Bank of Canada. Thank you very much for joining us. And a warm welcome to all of you also watching this in the overflow rooms, of course. And warm thanks to Sarika Cinta and Wifiani Ursatio, who have been so kind in helping organize this event. Thank you very much. So to get started, a simple question, just to get warm, a simple question on a scale of 1 to 10. How important do you think central bank digital currencies are, and how likely is it that your central bank will adopt these in the next 5 years? Cecilia.
How important the discussion is about the CBDC, is that the question? Okay, I think it's very important. I would say 8 to 9, perhaps not as important as global climate change, but certainly a very, that was very politically correct, wasn't it? Yes. It's certainly very important because I think money, the notion of money and how we organize societies around money and the fiat money system that we have been used to for a couple of 100 years, that has to work. And it has to work through technological changes. And as central bankers, we need to be on the forefront to think about how do we provide our service to society, providing a good version of money that people trust and wants to use, and works from a functionality perspective, meaning that you can do safe and efficient payments, and it should work for everybody in society. So we are living in very interesting times as we see these changes from one system growing over to another, and I'll come back on that. On the probability thing, I would say in Sweden, within the next 5 years, it's 50-50 or less than 50% probability that we will actually launch, and I can come back to that too. If you would have asked me, would we have something within 10 years or 15 years, I would say it's probably more than 50% probability.
Very interesting.
I would like to welcome everybody to Crypto Nation News. Guys, this is how they were reacting back in April of 2019 about CBDCs. They really joke about them and pretty much say that really and truly it's not that important. They would rather talk about global climate change than CBDCs. But then if we fast forward just 2 months from April to June, Facebook launches new cryptocurrency called Libra. This sparked a fire under everyone. Since we've had this announcement here, we have an article coming out with at least 18 central banks are developing sovereign digital currencies. The list of central banks developing sovereign digital currencies, or central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, as they are more commonly known, continues to grow. According to research from the block, of the 60-plus central banks analyzed, 18 have publicly acknowledged the development and or launch of their own CBDC. The most popular platform used by these central banks appears to be R3's Corda enterprise ledger. So as we get down into this and we start looking at what these central banks are doing, I want you to keep in mind that R3's Corda settler, they give the banks an option. You can go one of two directions. You can either go the traditional route and you can use Swift's GPI. And we all know that Swift come out with a GPI as an answer to the XRP ledger. And all they really did was put a little makeup on a pig, call it good, and try to actually just speed it up just a little bit. It worked out a little bit, but really and truly it does not have the speed and efficiency of something like XRP and the XRP ledger. So as we're looking at these central banks, we have a whole list here from China to Venezuela, Singapore, Uruguay, Cambodia, the Marshall Islands, Thailand, Bahamas, Republic of Turkey. We have the Central Bank of Iran, United Arab Emirates Central Bank, Saudi Arabia Monetary Authority, European Central Bank, Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. We start looking at all of these central banks, and it has the blockchain of choice over here on the right side of the column. So we have Singapore that is building upon the Corda. We have Thailand, which is building upon Corda, and we have the European Central Bank that is building upon Corda. So when you start thinking about the European Central Bank, you start thinking about the consortium of banks in which they have, and if I remember right, this is a large number of banks that are involved in the consortium of banks with the ECB. Mostly everybody that is involved with a European nation, and if I remember right, is upwards of 126 banks. I'm going to have to double check that number. That sounds right. I believe that it is 126 banks, but I still need to double check that number. Nonetheless, if the ECB is building upon Corda, we all know how Christine Lagarde feels about Ripple and XRP. So we can sort of speculate on where we think she's going to go when it comes to the platform of choice that they're going to use when they're building upon Corda. But I think that this is a good sign that we have 3 of these banks that are here that are building upon the Corda platform, and ECB being very important in that mix of banks. But not only these 18 banks have spoken up since the release of Facebook's announcement. We also have South Korea's central bank that is organizing a task force to research central bank digital currencies. They want to know exactly how this can help them in their day-to-day use of the banking system. But it gets even bigger. We have Russia central bank that's ready to test. They said they got it ready. We're fixing to start testing this thing. Let's roll it out and see how it works. Not only Russia, we have France right behind them. France plans to test institutional CBDC in 2020. The rate of adoption of CBDCs since the announcement of Facebook's Libra is unprecedented. It's really and truly, as you sit back and you look at this thing, at how fast they're moving, because they're scared to death, guys. They don't want something like Libra that is tied to a company like Facebook that is already leaking people's personal information all over the globe. They don't want that to be a banking superpower. They don't want that to be what's in charge of the financial system, and they definitely don't want something like Libra to become a one world currency, if you will. So they're working really hard. It lit a fire under all of them, and we're seeing that there's several of them that are building upon Corda platform that will utilize either Swift's GPI or the XRP ledger. So it's really exciting to see how these CBDCs are turning out. Do you feel like that the CBDCs could be built upon the R3 Corda ledger and utilizing XRP? Let's talk about that in the comments. Let's really get a discussion going on that and see how that rolls out and see what people's thoughts are about that. At this moment in time, guys, all we're seeing is pieces of a puzzle. We don't know exactly what their plans are, but we are getting pieces of the puzzle, and the puzzle is starting to become whole. We're starting to see a lot of things moving around, and it's really exciting to watch. It's really exciting to watch. Let's get on into some Ripple news. Ripple's on-demand liquidity gets another user in Instarims as Army continues to be on bullish lookout. This is pretty exciting right here, simply for the fact of the news that follows this. This came out just a couple of days ago. In 2019 comes to an end. Some cryptocurrency companies have taken it upon themselves to escalate the market to the next level. Ripple has added another feather to its cap as one of its most popular features gets adopted by a Singapore-based organization. Partnerships between cryptocurrency organizations have been the norm in 2019, and users have seen it that the ones that occur are always pushed to the forefront. Ripple's XRP's parent company is one major example of crypto organization taking control of the tie-up atmosphere, and it has reaped dividends again. NEOM, a RippleNet member, which has major reach in South Asia countries, have revealed that they're starting to use Ripple's popular on-demand liquidity. Guys, there was a lot of people when these types of articles were coming out a ways back, that when they were announcing that they were partnering up with Ripple, utilizing RippleNet, and all the fudsters, all the naysayers, well, they're not saying anything about ODL. They're not saying anything about XRP. Back then, it was XRapid. Well, they're not even talking about XRapid, guys. They're talking about XCurrent. That's what we heard a lot of the time, and we tried to explain to them. There's no way that these people are signing up for XCurrent and don't want to utilize the full amount of savings in which they can get through the platform by not adopting with XRP. So here we are. NEOM is the first one that we're seeing publicly come out and saying, hey, we're swapping from XCurrent to ODL. And here's what the CEO had to say. Super excited to end the year with the announcement that we have got our FTSP license in Japan and registrations will happen this week. It's been a 2-year process, and we are excited to launch in Japan by the end of Q1. Both NEOM and Instagram will be active brands in Japan. Japan is at the forefront of moving things forward when it comes to Ripple and XRP, and by what the articles say, that's going to account for about 50% of all the volume that's coming through is going to be coming through Japan. And we heard this news that come out earlier today. Well, actually, it come out late last night. Ripple's XRP being adopted by almost every Japanese bank. Guys, this shouldn't be new to you, realistically. And the reason that this shouldn't be new to you is for the fact that back in February, Yoshitaka Katao, every bank in Japan will use Ripple's XRP by 2025. So it shouldn't be that big of a surprise to see where Japan is trying to actually take the adoption of XRP. But what really excites me about everything that's going on in Japan is that it's not just for cross-border payments. They're actually using it domestically as well, which that is huge in my opinion. That's very, very exciting to see happen. And I want to see where Japan takes XRP in the year of 2020. And let's see how that all plays out. We're just getting pieces of the puzzle now, guys, but the puzzle will start to come together as we move further through 2020. And a little bit of better news for Ripple. Ripple pushing for XRP expansion in Brazil, set to announce new banking partnerships in early 2020. Guys, anytime we start talking about new banking partnerships with Ripple, we know that it's only a matter of time before we start hearing about things about ODL coming in right behind it. As of right now, this article states that it is not using XRP. This is really and truly going to be just a push forward into the banking sector, into Brazil, as far as XCurrent, RippleNet moving forward in here. But just like with the smaller companies, it's only a matter of time before we start seeing banks and everybody else that are coming up behind them swapping over from RippleNet to utilizing ODL. Here it is. Ripple Managing Director Luis Sacco says that the country's clear digital banking regulations are playing a key role in the company's expansion into Brazil, where Ripple is talking with banks and regulators about utilizing XRP for remittances. Ripple is already working with Santander Brazil, Bradesco, and Redimento. Golly, guys, that word was really challenging, guys. Maybe in the comments you can tell me how that word is supposed to be said. That's a challenging word. Which use the company's payment messaging system, but so far, none of the companies are utilizing XRP. The San Francisco startup launched a new office in Brazil back in July, and according to Sacco, roughly 30% of Ripple's total transaction volume is now moving through the country. It's only a matter of time, guys, before we start seeing them opening up the doors and accepting ODL and actually settling upon ODL using XRP. It's only a matter of time, guys. It always happens that way. You got to start off small, then introduce them to it, then show them where their savings are. Then they'll ramp that up slowly, and then once they start ramping that up slowly, getting makers and takers on each side of the transaction. Once we get makers and takers on each side of the transaction, then that's when we start seeing things start to ramp up. We start seeing more volume coming through. And guys, that's going to be no different than even the MoneyGram corridors, that we definitely have to give them the opportunity to ramp up and get makers and takers on each side of the transaction so that MoneyGram can actually start utilizing their corridors to the full benefit and opening up new corridors as we move forward. So really, really exciting times for Ripple, really, really exciting times for XRP as we're moving forward. Really excited about the 2020s. I want to see how this is going to play out. I'm going to be following the stories. I'm going to start listing all of these articles in the description of this video so that you can follow back through. The video in the beginning of it, I would really recommend watching that. That video was about an hour long. If you didn't see it back in April when it first came out, it's really informative video, especially how Canada and Sweden, how they feel about CBDCs and how they see the CBDC world playing out. It's really interesting to watch. So go back, watch that video. I'll make sure to list it in the description. But in some other news right here, guys, another 20 million Tether has just been freshly minted. For anybody that's been following Tether story, we all know what this means. Realistically, every time that we see some Tether minted, and it even says it here in the article, that every time we see some Tether minted, Bitcoin begins to rally directly there afterwards. So are we going to see a little Bitcoin rally off of this 20 million Tether that just got printed? Yeah, only time will tell. But all the other ones, when there was large amounts of Tether that was printed, it wasn't but a day or two later, we started seeing BTC take a run up. And with the futures contracts just closing today, I don't think that it's a coincidence that futures contracts closed today. Now they've printed out 20 million more Tether. Now we're fixing to go on a run. So they're going to toy with you a little bit, guys. They're going to run it up a little bit. I think the top of the channel, if I remember right from watching my buddy Blockchain Backer, I think for BTC, the top of the channel is going to be somewhere around $9,000. Realistically, if they're toying with us, we're going to hit up around $9,000, and then we should start to see a dump again, getting ready for the next futures contracts. That's my opinion. Let's watch the charts and see how they play out. We might not even get a bump out of this Tether printing, but guys, it just so is, it's very coincidental that every time we have a large print of Tether, shortly thereafter, within a day or two, we have a spike up in the price of Bitcoin. So let's pay attention to it. Let's watch it together and see how it plays out. As always, guys, if you like the content that I'm providing, please like, please subscribe. Getting ready to roll over 2,000 subscribers. And guys, for doing this less than 2 months, man, I am just extremely excited about every one of you that have subscribed to the channel. I hope that we can do something real nice for you here in the not so distant future. Just a little bit of thank you for all of the love that you've been showing us and the support for the channel. I definitely appreciate that. And always, guys, we may not have it all together, but together we can have it all. Let's not hold my feet to the fire on these articles. This is just my opinion of the situation. I want you to dig into it also. We have a big puzzle here, and we're getting pieces of the puzzle, and the only thing this channel is doing is realistically showing you where to find some of these pieces. Let's put the pieces together, and let's have a discussion about it together, and work our way through this thing and see how our investments might pan out in the long run. As always, please like, please subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.